She counted 3 ways to kill him before the carriage had fully stopped. The first required the hairpin at her temple. The second, the slim blade tucked inside her left boot. The third was more circumstantial, dependent on whether the Duke of Caelmoor stood close enough to the eastern parapet that a single well-placed shove would do what gravity was always willing to do for free. She had noted the parapet from the road. She noted everything from roads. The carriage door opened, and Wren Maddox stepped into the grey afternoon light of Caelmoor Keep's outer courtyard as Lady Wren Ashvale, arranged bride, dutiful traveller, a woman with nothing behind her eyes but the mild anxiety of a long journey and the polite wariness of meeting a man she had never seen. It was one of her better performances. The courtyard was exactly as the sanctum's briefing maps had described it. Basalt stone underfoot, iron lanterns along every wall already lit against the heavy, overcast sky. 2 guard towers flanking the main gate with sightlines that covered the approach, but left the eastern wing exposed. She filed this away without moving her eyes. The man who came forward to receive her was not the Duke. He was older, white-haired, folded slightly at the shoulders in the manner of a man who had spent decades performing deference so well he had begun to believe it. A heavy gold chain sat across his chest. His eyes, pale and gray-green and hooded, moved over her with the efficiency of an appraiser calculating worth.
Lady Ashvale, Caelmoor receives you. I am Aldrich Fane, High Counselor and Lord Steward of this household. His Grace asks that you forgive his absence from this greeting. He will receive you at dinner.
Of course. I am grateful for the welcome, Counselor. Caelmoor is everything I was told to expect.
I hope that is a compliment, my lady.
It was meant as one.
It was not meant as one. But Fane smiled his thin smile, the one that communicated nothing, and gestured toward the keep's inner doors with those long, steepled fingers. And Wren walked beside him through the gate like a woman who had not just memorized every guard rotation she could observe in 40 seconds. The woman waiting inside the corridor was younger than Fine by 2 decades, auburn-haired and warmly dressed in deep copper, with a household ring of keys at her hip and a professional smile that arrived slightly too quickly to be spontaneous. Sarah Vane, Wren noted, keeper of domestic arrangements, installed by Fine, eyes for Fine. She had read the intelligence file 3 times. Sarah led her through the interior of the keep with the practiced warmth of someone who was very good at making people feel received rather than observed. Wren let herself be received. She admired the tapestries when it was appropriate to admire them. She asked about the history of the Eastern Corridor when passing it, which had nothing to do with the history of the Eastern Corridor, and everything to do with confirming that it connected to the outer wall passage the briefing maps had marked as a secondary exit. Her chambers were larger than she had expected. A wide fireplace already burning, dark wood furnishings, a window that looked north over the ridge toward the city below. She stood at it for a moment after Sarah left, watching the iron lanterns come on in the streets one by one as the last of the afternoon light surrendered, and she thought about the contract. 3 days. That was what Marin Voss had told her in the sanctum below, 12 days ago. Her voice carrying the same flat weight it always did when she was delivering something irreversible.
The marriage contract seals on the 4th morning. Before that point, his death reads as misfortune. After it, you will be inside his household. You will find the access. You will not require more than 3 days. And if something delays it, then Doran will handle what you did not. That is why Doran exists.
Wren had not argued. She never argued with Marin, not because she agreed, but because Marin's certainty was a wall, and walls did not negotiate. She had taken the sealed contract from Sable Oren's pale, careful hands, had read the charge, had noted the evidence presented against Varek Thornveil, the deaths of his 2 brothers, both within a single season, both ruled accident or illness by an inquest Varek himself had convened. The consolidation of the dukedom into his hands alone. The fear in the city below. The servants who left Caelmoor Keep and did not speak of what they had seen there. It was a credible case. The Hollow Hand did not deal in incredible cases. She dressed for dinner with the methodical attention she gave to preparing for anything with a high margin for error. The midnight plum gown, the hairpin with the sharpened edge, the slim blade transferred from her boot to the hidden seam inside her left sleeve, which the gown's cut was specifically selected to accommodate. She looked in the small copper mirror above the dressing table and saw Lady Ashvale looking back at her, composed and jewel-toned and perfectly harmless. Good, she thought. Good. The great hall was exactly as large and underused as it looked from the doorway. A vaulted ceiling above a long, dark table set for two at its far end, which she thought said something about the Duke of Caelmoor that she had not read in any briefing file. A man who knew a table set for 30 looked absurd for two people, and chose the honest absurdity of admitting it. She was still thinking about this when Varek Thornveil walked in. He was not what the rumors had built. The rumors had built something monstrous, a man who wore the deaths of his brothers like a coat, something large and deliberate in its cruelty, something that would be easy to look at and easy to hate. What walked into the great hall instead was a man in a precisely fastened midnight plum coat, with dark brocade at the cuffs, with ink-stained fingers and a jagged scar along his jaw and amber-brown eyes that moved to her face and stayed there with an attention that was neither predatory nor performative. He looked like a man who was also deciding something.
Lady Ashvale, I owe you an apology for the courtyard. I was told the carriage was an hour behind schedule.
It made better time than expected. No apology is needed, Your Grace.
Eldrick tells me you were gracious about it. I find that I distrust graciousness in people I have just met. It usually means they want something.
That is a very honest thing to say to someone you have just met.
I have been told honesty is one of my less endearing qualities.
She smiled. Lady Ashvale's smile, measured and warm and revealing nothing. He looked at it for a moment in a way that suggested he was not entirely convinced by it, and then he pulled out her chair with the automatic courtesy of a man who had been taught these gestures young and retained them through everything. And they sat down at the undersized end of the overlarge table while the fire at the far wall threw amber light across the stone. And Wren thought, 2 days and 20 hours remaining, and something about this is already wrong. Not wrong in the way a trap was wrong, with wires and intent. Wrong in the way a story was wrong when one detail refused to fit the shape of everything else. She reached for her wine glass. The hairpin was at her temple. The blade was at her sleeve. She had 3 ways to kill him, and she had been in this room for 4 minutes, and she had not yet decided which one she wanted to use first. What she had decided, quietly and against her own better judgment, was that she wanted to know what he had been about to say just before he stopped himself. When the servant cleared the first course and left them briefly alone, Varek set down his glass and looked at her with those amber eyes that missed less than they should. Lady Ashvale, he said quietly, in the voice of a man choosing his words the way other people chose weapons. Who sent you to Caelmoor? And please do not say the arrangement. We both know the arrangement was built for someone else's purpose. I would like to know whose. The fire crackled. Wren did not move. He knew, not everything, but enough. And she had 2 days and 19 hours left to figure out what to do about
Lady
that.
Ashvale, who sent you to Caelmoor? We both know the arrangement was built for someone else's purpose. I would like to know who.